The moment the announcement dropped, the internet didn't just react, it seized up. Feeds froze. Group chats exploded. And inside conservative media circles, people reportedly stared at their screens in stunned silence, whispering the same question over and over. How did this happen? Because Erika Kirk didn't just get promoted. She leapfrogged the entire power structure and landed straight in the CEO seat, with no warning, no build-up, and no clear explanation. 1 second, she was being framed as the supportive partner standing beside Charlie. Next, she was holding the keys to the entire empire. And insiders say the timing alone should have set off alarms. What made it chilling wasn't the title. It was the look on her face. Calm. Prepared. Almost expectant. As if this moment had been rehearsed long before anyone else knew the script. People close to the organization say there were no leaks, because there couldn't be leaks. Too many conversations happened behind closed doors, too many decisions made in whispers, too many moves executed quietly while the public was distracted by grief and tribute posts. And then came the rumors. The kind nobody wants to repeat out loud. Whispers of sealed letters. Of private messages Charlie allegedly sent before everything changed. Of a motive so calculated it flips the entire love story narrative upside down. And here's the part that has everyone unsettled. Those who knew Charlie best reportedly didn't celebrate. They panicked. Because if this promotion was truly his wish, why does it contradict what he was saying in private? Why do people who built the organization feel blindsided? And why are insiders now hinting that Charlie's real intentions were buried, not honored? Buckle up, because once you hear what's being whispered about Charlie's motive, this story stops being about a promotion, and starts feeling like a takeover nobody was ready for. From the outside, it looked seamless, almost elegant, but behind the glass walls of the organization, people say the air felt wrong the moment Erika Kirk began moving differently. Not louder. Not flashier. Just differently. Staffers who had worked under Charlie for years whispered that she started showing up to meetings she was never scheduled for, sitting quietly, smiling politely, listening more than speaking. At first, it felt harmless, even supportive. A grieving partner trying to understand the machine her husband built. But then the questions started. Questions that didn't sound like curiosity. Questions that sounded like strategy. Who controlled donor communications? Who signed off on internal restructuring? Which board members were flexible? Which ones weren't? One former staffer later claimed, "That's when I realized she wasn't learning the system. She was mapping it." As Charlie's health reportedly declined behind the scenes, Erika's presence grew stronger. She became the messenger. The filter. The gatekeeper. Emails that once came directly from Charlie suddenly came on his behalf. Meetings were rescheduled through her. Phone calls were redirected. And when people asked if Charlie was aware of the changes, the answer was always the same: "He trusts me." That sentence became a shield. A shutdown. An end to the conversation. And anyone who pushed back found themselves slowly iced out. Their meetings cancelled. Their access limited. Their roles quietly reduced. No dramatic firings. Just erasure. Insiders now claim that during this period, several longtime allies raised concerns privately, but every concern hit the same wall. Erika. She controlled the flow of information, and she controlled the emotional temperature. Publicly, she was the grieving wife posting scripture, asking for prayers, thanking supporters. Privately, according to leaked internal messages, she was already discussing continuity and long-term stability. Words that sound harmless until you realize they were being used before anyone had officially acknowledged how serious Charlie's condition was. One anonymous source put it bluntly. She was talking about the future, while we were still pretending nothing was wrong. Then came the donor dinners. Quiet ones. Off calendar. Erika hosting, not Charlie. Conversations that felt less like remembrance and more like reassurance. She allegedly told multiple high-level supporters that Charlie wanted her, deeply involved, and that he believed she was the only one who could protect his vision from being watered down. That phrase stuck. Watered down. According to insiders, that's when the narrative started shifting from grief to urgency. From partnership to necessity. And slowly, people began hearing the same thing repeated in different rooms by different people, as if rehearsed. This is what Charlie wanted. But here's where the story fractures. Because while Erika was telling donors one version, Charlie was allegedly telling a very different one to people he trusted. Late-night texts. Half-finished conversations. Notes scribbled and left behind. One source claims Charlie confided that he was uncomfortable with how fast things were moving, that he felt decisions were being made around him, not with him. Another claims he expressed fear that the organization could be hijacked emotionally if the wrong person framed themselves as his voice. None of this was public. None of it was documented officially. And that's what makes it so dangerous. As Charlie's condition worsened, Erika's authority solidified. She began approving schedules. Approving messaging. Approving hires. People stopped asking permission from the board and started asking her. Not because she demanded it, but because the system had quietly trained them to. And when Charlie finally passed, the infrastructure was already in place. The announcement of her promotion wasn't the beginning. It was the reveal. The final step of a process insiders now say had been unfolding for months, maybe longer. The day the CEO announcement went live, several staffers reportedly broke down in tears. Not from pride. From shock. Some had assumed an interim leader would be appointed. Others believed the board would step in collectively. Almost no one expected Erika to take the top seat immediately. Especially not without a transparent transition plan. Especially not without an open discussion. And especially not when so many people who knew Charlie intimately were saying, "This doesn't sound like him." Then the leaks started. Screenshots of internal chats questioning the timeline. A voice memo allegedly from a former advisor saying, "We never voted on this." A blurred photo of a document claiming to be a succession plan, dated earlier than anyone remembers discussing leadership changes. And the most unsettling detail of all, multiple insiders say there was talk of a letter. A private letter Charlie supposedly wrote. One Erika claims to support her promotion. Another that others claim contradicts it entirely. Two letters. Two narratives. And only one person in possession of both. As the internet erupted, Erika stayed calm. Almost eerily so. She posted a photo with a Bible verse about obedience and calling. She disabled comments on one post, then re-enabled them hours later. She didn't address the rumors. She didn't clarify the timeline. She didn't deny the existence of private documents. And that silence only made things worse. Because while she said nothing, people around her started talking. Quietly. Anonymously. To bloggers. To journalists. To anyone who would listen. One former insider claimed that days before his death, Charlie had asked for a meeting without Erika present. That meeting never happened. Another claims Charlie told them, "If anything changes suddenly, question it." That line has now become a rallying cry online. And then, just when the speculation hit a fever pitch, someone leaked a single sentence allegedly pulled from Charlie's private notes. "I need to protect what I built from the person closest to me." No name. No date. Just that sentence. And suddenly, one source claimed the recording wasn't emotional. It wasn't a goodbye. It was calculated. Allegedly made after Charlie noticed inconsistencies between what he was being told and what was actually happening. The source described it as an insurance policy. Not against enemies. Against proximity. Against someone who had access to his home, his schedule, his devices, and his trust. And if that's true, then the most chilling part isn't that a recording exists. It's that Charlie believed he needed one. Inside the building, paranoia exploded. Staff began watching who talked to whom. Slack messages were deleted. Calendars were scrubbed. One employee allegedly overheard a heated exchange behind closed doors where Erika demanded to know who was feeding lies to bloggers. Another claims a senior staffer was abruptly placed on leave after refusing to hand over old email archives. Officially, it was called organizational streamlining. Unofficially, people called it a purge. Meanwhile, the board was fracturing. Publicly unified. Privately split. Some members reportedly believed Erika's version completely. That Charlie wanted her in charge. That the leaks were disrespectful. That questioning her was equivalent to questioning him. Others weren't so sure. One board member allegedly said, "I don't recognize this process. And I don't recognize the silence." But those doubts never made it into official statements. They stayed behind closed doors, where fear of retaliation kept voices low. Then social media poured gasoline on the fire. Old clips resurfaced. Interviews where Charlie joked about never mixing family and leadership. Moments where he emphasized transparency and checks on power. TikTok creators began stitching those clips with screenshots of Erika's sudden authority. The contrast was brutal. View counts exploded. Comment sections turned into digital courtrooms. People weren't debating policy anymore. They were debating intent. Motive. Control. And then came the leaked messages. Screenshots allegedly pulled from an internal group chat, time-stamped weeks before Charlie's death. Messages where someone, believed to be Erika's assistant, discussed preparing leadership language. Another where a staffer asked, "Shouldn't we wait?" The response, according to the leak, was simple: timing matters. That phrase spread like wildfire. Timing matters. It became shorthand for everything people were afraid to say out loud. The most explosive moment came when a journalist claimed to have spoken to someone who had heard the recording. Not seen it. Heard it. The journalist was careful, almost too careful, choosing every word like it could detonate at any moment. They said the recording wasn't accusatory. It was analytical. Charlie allegedly listing behaviors, patterns, concerns. Not naming names directly, but making it painfully obvious who he was talking about. And the final line, according to this second-hand account, was what sent chills through everyone following the story. "If you're hearing this, it means I waited too long." That line alone fractured public opinion. Supporters of Erika dismissed it as fabrication. Haters called it confirmation. Neutral observers began asking a new question: if the recording is fake, why hasn't anyone categorically denied its existence? Not dismissed it. Not reframed it. Denied it. And that question lingered unanswered. Behind the scenes, Erika's behavior reportedly shifted again. No more open-door conversations. No more casual check-ins. Communication became formal, documented, filtered through legal language. One staffer claimed she began insisting on meetings being recorded for clarity. Another said she started reminding people about NDAs they'd signed years ago, as if daring them to forget. The grieving widow image was still there online. But inside, people described something colder, sharper, defensive. Then came the confrontation that almost broke everything open. According to an insider, a board member finally asked Erika directly if Charlie had left any recordings. Not letters. Not notes. Recordings. The room reportedly went silent. Erika didn't answer immediately. She smiled. Not nervously. Not warmly. And then she said, "Charlie trusted me to decide what the world needed to hear." That sentence landed like a bomb. Because it wasn't a denial. It was a declaration of control. After that meeting, 2 board members allegedly resigned. Quietly. No press release. No explanation. Their names simply disappeared from the website days later. Another board member reportedly lawyered up. Not to sue. To protect themselves. That detail alone told insiders everything they needed to know. This wasn't just messy. It was dangerous. Online, theories escalated. Some claimed the recording involved financial concerns. Others speculated it was about emotional manipulation. A few went darker, suggesting isolation tactics, narrative shaping, even pressure. None of it confirmed. All of it fueled by the same unsettling pattern: information flowing one direction, power flowing one direction, and silence everywhere else. Then a new leak dropped. A voice memo, distorted, unverified, allegedly from someone who worked closely with Charlie during his final weeks. The voice said Charlie had begun asking strange questions. About access. About backups. About who could override decisions if he wasn't present. The voice claimed he was scared of being edited out of his own legacy. Whether true or not, the idea alone was enough to send chills through anyone who'd watched the organization preach transparency for years. And through all of this, Erika never wavered publicly. She continued posting inspirational messages. Continued thanking supporters. Continued speaking about faith, strength, and carrying on a mission larger than any one person. But to critics, that language sounded less like humility and more like justification. Especially when paired with reports that she was now personally approving media narratives about Charlie's final days. The tension reached its peak when a small, but credible outlet published a piece, with one devastating line buried halfway through the article. Multiple sources confirm there is material that has not been released because its existence alone would destabilize leadership. No details. No confirmation. Just that sentence. And suddenly, the question wasn't if something was being hidden. It was how long it could stay hidden. Because if Charlie really left something behind, something that contradicts the official story, then Erika's promotion isn't just controversial. It's precarious. Built on silence. Maintained by control. And dependent on the belief that whatever Charlie recorded never sees the light of day. But insiders say that belief may already be cracking. Because once more than one person knows a secret exists, it stops being a secret. It becomes a countdown. And according to one final, chilling whisper circulating among former staff, the recording wasn't stored where anyone expects. Not on a device. Not in the cloud. But entrusted to someone Charlie believed would know when the time was right. And if that's true, then the real question isn't whether Erika's position will survive scrutiny. It's whether she knows how close the truth actually is to coming out. By the time the sun came up the next morning, the situation had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. This was no longer about leadership optics or grief-driven decisions. It had become a race. A race between exposure and containment. And everyone involved knew it. According to insiders, phones were buzzing before dawn, not with condolences, but with warnings. Quiet warnings. Urgent warnings. The kind that start with "you didn't hear." Inside the organization, Erika's authority was now absolute on paper, but unstable in reality. People followed directives, but trust had evaporated. Meetings felt scripted. Conversations ended abruptly when she entered the room. Staffers stopped using names in messages, referring to people as "you know who" or "them." One employee said it felt like working inside a glass box, where every word could be used later. Then came the leak that changed everything. A short audio clip. Only 8 seconds. No faces. No visuals. Just a voice. Charlie's voice. Older recordings confirmed it. The cadence. The pauses. The breath between words. The clip wasn't explosive on its own. No accusations. No names. Just one sentence. "If this plays, it means I didn't get the chance to fix it myself." That was it. 8 seconds. And it detonated the internet. The reaction was instant and violent. Supporters of Erika scrambled to discredit it, claiming AI manipulation, deepfake audio, fabrication. But experts weighed in within hours, saying the clip showed no obvious signs of synthetic generation. It wasn't conclusive proof, but it was enough to push doubt into overdrive. If that clip was real, then everything Erika had said about clarity, intention, and closure collapsed. Behind closed doors, panic set in. According to a leaked internal memo, the board discussed crisis containment strategies. Not investigation. Not transparency. Containment. That single word leaked and became the centerpiece of online outrage. What exactly were they trying to contain? Information? Damage? Or the truth itself? And then the most dramatic twist yet. A former confidant of Charlie's went live. No announcement. No warning. Just a phone propped up, shaky hands, and a voice cracking with emotion. They said they couldn't stay silent anymore. That Charlie had confided in them weeks before his death, that he felt managed. Not supported. Managed. That he feared decisions were being made in his name without his consent. That he worried the organization he built was becoming something he didn't recognize. They stopped short of naming Erika directly. But they didn't need to. The implication hung heavy in the air. Especially when they added one final line: "He told me if anything happened, people would rush to speak for him." But the truth wouldn't be loud. It would be buried. That live stream was taken down within minutes. Copyright strike. Platform violation. The reason changed twice. But the damage was done. Clips spread everywhere. Millions watched. Millions believed. And suddenly, Erika wasn't just defending a promotion. She was defending a narrative that was slipping out of her control. The pressure reached a breaking point when a major donor reportedly froze funding pending clarification. That word again. Clarification. Another donor allegedly demanded a full audit. Staff morale collapsed. Resignations piled up quietly. And for the first time, mainstream outlets began asking the question that independent creators had been screaming for days. Why hasn't the board released everything Charlie left behind? Erika finally broke her silence with a carefully worded statement. Calm. Polished. Controlled. She called the allegations deeply hurtful, the leaks irresponsible, and the speculation a distraction from the mission Charlie loved. But she never addressed the recordings directly. Never denied their existence. Never explained why transparency wasn't an option. That omission spoke louder than any denial could have. Then came the final bombshell. A legal filing. Not against a leaker. Not against a blogger. but a sealed motion requesting temporary injunctions against the release of unauthorized personal materials. That phrase sent shockwaves everywhere, because it confirmed what everyone suspected: there was material, and someone was trying to stop it from coming out. The internet erupted one last time. Commentators called it a confession without words. Critics said if there was nothing to hide, there'd be nothing to block. Supporters argued it was about dignity, privacy, respect. But the timing couldn't have been worse. The narrative had already escaped the building. It was alive now. Untouchable. As of now, everything hangs in limbo. The recordings haven't been released. The red envelope hasn't resurfaced. The board remains silent. Erika remains CEO. But nothing feels settled. Nothing feels safe. And the most haunting part of all is this: every single person involved knows that if even one full recording leaks, the entire story changes forever. Because then it won't be about interpretation, or timing, or grief. It will be about the truth. And truth doesn't care who's in charge. And somewhere out there, according to multiple whispers that refuse to die, someone still has what Charlie left behind. Waiting. Watching. Deciding when the world is ready to hear it. If you're still here, that means you can feel it too. This story isn't finished, and pretending it is would be a mistake. What you just heard isn't just internet noise